which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Yes.
And welcome to our City of Depoe Bay Council meeting, July 16, 2024. Kim, will you please call the roll?
Councilman Stella.
Here.
Councilor Watson.
She's excused.
Okay. Councilor Reck. Here. Councilor King. Here. Mayor Short. Here. Councilor Solver.
Here.
And Councilor Beasley.
Here.
Thank you. We have a quorum. Has everyone had a chance to review the consent agenda? Is there a motion to accept it as presented?
I'll move that we accept it as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the consent agenda as presented. Is there discussion on the motion?
I have a question. And it has to do with minutes, and if I can address Kim about those minutes. Kim, these minutes are about 90 days out. I find them to be very, very helpful. That the farther out they get, the less help they are. Is it possible to bring them closer to, like maybe the last meeting?
Absolutely. We, part of that was while our little administrative assistant, who's the one that's taken them, doing the minutes, we learned the process. But now that she has, and she's doing a really good job, I've asked her to do 2 per meeting until we get caught up.
Thank you.
Any other discussion on that?
I have a couple of budget questions.
Yes.
Not budget, sorry, accounts payable. Kim, there's an expenditure for, gotta find it here, landscape maintenance. Do we not have city staff to do landscape maintenance?
We have chosen to hire somebody to keep the city plans up because it's so important to the city. The crew keeps everywhere else up. We have 2 maintenance staff crew that do more than just the mowing. They primarily do the mowing, but they also do a bunch of cleanup. They spend time doing all the rights of way, the corners, they spend time doing all the other places, all the other parks and all the other places that are done. So, we found that having somebody do the scenic plans, because it's good for the tourist view, so it can come out of TRT, so it kind of helps with, because it's primarily we do this.
Okay. And then the other one that I have, and I'm sure we'll talk more about it tonight, is the annual contract for the sheriff.
Yes.
It kind of surprised me that the council doesn't have to approve that contract before the payment is made. And so I'm not, just because it's in the budget, the contract is still worded in a way that I think that the council should have to approve that.
And you absolutely can. Remember, we don't actually pay these invoices until they get signed tonight.
Correct.
So if the council wishes and chooses to pull that invoice for further discussion, the council is more than able to do that. You would want to tell me now before they approve the consent agenda?
Well, I don't know that we know that until we've had a discussion.
Okay.
So. I'm just surprised that it appeared here without having a contract that we agreed to for this upcoming year. So
I believe the contract, and should say, you have a copy of it, I think it has renewal language in it. So unless there's some discussion or some objection, and I didn't get the impression from the budget committee meetings or the council adoption budget that there would be any issues with one deputy. But if I erred in bringing it forward too soon, then
sure,
my
and
apologies.
we'll talk about this with the contract, because the contract said that it's supposed to be renewed in May. They'll give you the information in March, and if we don't renew it by May, then we go to a month-to-month with monthly expenditures. And so I just don't see that had occurred, so I just want to make sure that we.
You're right, and we talked about that, and I think that the sheriff and Lieutenant Griffin explained there was a delay in providing simply because of the negotiations they were doing with Lincoln County to try to get the price down.
Any other discussion on the motion?
Mayor Short, I'd like to just briefly address the council, specifically Councilor Beasley. Just thank you for your question regarding the minutes. I'm the administrative assistant for this position and I'm new. I just had my 6-month anniversary. Before this role, I had never I had never done this kind of professional writing. And so the reason for the minutes being as late as they are is mine, but I'm doing my best to catch up. I do have some other councils and committees I take minutes for as well. So thank you for your patience.
Thank you, Gina. Any other discussion?
So what I heard is maybe we should approve the consent agenda without the share payment until we have a discussion. We can always add it back into the approval later on.
Correct.
So approve the consent agenda except with that line item.
Okay. Any other discussions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Speaking of the sheriff, Deputy, do you want to come up and give us your monthly report?
I don't have one currently, but questions?
Here.
Just so I can reference if you guys have any questions. It's nice, easy to have questions, not lost here tonight, so.
You're on the hot seat.
Yeah, right?
They're all
I just
here.
All of them.
Those people you were pulling over this morning, boy.
Yes, never a dull moment.
I know. So we had 3 arrests.
Yes, one was within Depot Bay, 2 of those arrests were one person outside of Depot Bay.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Was that during fire Parker Day? or-
No, it was relatively quiet in Depot Bay for the 3rd and 4th of July. My big excitement was catching a house fire. It was not, the house wasn't on fire, but the deck was. Was able to clear it out, and that was my excitement. Other than that, it was quiet here. Again, last year was about the same.
I have a question. Are your arrests typically traffic related?
They are. The majority of the arrests that I have here going back, I mean, I've been working here for over a year now. The majority of those arrests are from criminal driving and suspension.
Any other questions for Deputy?
Would you briefly explain the report, the red and the particular issue? Because this is a new report for you.
Sergeant Vale was just going over this with me. He can step in a little bit to maybe make it more clear, because he's the one who does produce it, and I don't want to mess anything up.
Yeah, so with the new report, the idea was to give you a more granular view of the kind of work the case is doing. So the cover sheet you'll see on the front is just the gross numbers. So 14 citations, 80 traffic warnings, so stops that didn't result in citation. Traffic crashes, like we didn't have any. Arrests, like we didn't have any there. Then we have 131 incidents total, and then there's a breakdown of the hours that he's spending on this contract. Here and the time off and things like that, so you can track where hours are going. And then the call by call, so you can look at pretty specifically what calls are being generated by this position that you guys are funding. The calls that are highlighted in red in the venue column are calls that are not directly related to the city of Depot Bay, at least by the computer system. The column just one over from that, the exception, is when we can attribute that call to not having detracted from the city of Depoe Bay. So it's something related to city services, like if he goes up to Chester's Driftway, we recognize that that's a part of this community. So it's an exception, it's gonna be in our North District, but we can still include it as something that the city of Depoe Bay is interested in servicing. And then the other ones that we do have phone contact, where he didn't leave the city, but he was able to contact someone who needed service in another part of the county just through the phone. So still receiving service here, even though he's also in the wider county.
And the other thing you provided was the schedule. Everybody took a look at that, and you can see that they show the patrols and when he's gonna be on vacation, when they will be training. That sort of stuff.
Mayor, I want to thank you for producing this report. It's exactly what I was looking for. It's going to be very helpful. Mayor, just one thing that I couldn't help but notice, there were a total of, it looks like 105 citations and warnings. People who got a good, get out of jail ticket. But if we were to consider each one of those 105 stops was at an average fine of about $200, over the course of the year, it would generate about $252,000 in fines. My question is, when you write a ticket, where does the money go? How is it divided up? You know?
Sure. I can give a gross answer, you can give a real one.
Thank you, Councilor. Kurt Sanders, Lincoln County Sheriff, for the record. I'll let finish his report, but it really is a complicated formula, but our citations go to circuit court now, and so the majority of them, very little money comes back to the sheriff's office in fines. I think, and I might put the lieutenant on the spot, but inter revenue for fines, how much per year?
Last year, overall fines and recoveries around $40,000.
$40,000, so it actually comes back to us by the time it's all paid. It stays in other areas, and DPSFC, which is our police academy, assessments go out for training, there's assessments built on, so there's a bunch of assessments built on those citations, that really very little comes back. Now, I don't know if your question's going to be directed at a municipal court, citing in a municipal court like we do in the city of Walport.
That would have been my next question.
And SLEX is currently looking at that too. Now, obviously, more money would stay with the municipal court and obviously the city at that point, if that was the direction. But again, then you also have costs associated with operating the municipal court too. So you'd have to see if that outweighs. I know it's interesting because Walport's had a municipal court forever. They're looking at disbanding it because of that cost. SLEX has never had one, and they're looking at starting it up. So it's just kind of, city specific on what your actual needs are. I know SLEX initially started mainly for their code violations to get them into the city in order to be able to more directly, it wasn't really a money issue, but more directly work with the individual as far as that code violation to fix the situation.
Thank you for bringing that up about what the city would pay. I happened to look at Lincoln City's budget today. It was an older budget. It was a 2018-19 budget, I think. But the position of municipal judge is a part-time position budgeted at $43,787, and the clerk was $23,000. So the total cost of the court was $71,000. And they, again, they brought in several $100,000. So I just don't know if, once you took those assessments off, how it would work, but we have to research that, I think, and see if we can do that, because you don't get the money anyway.
No, but very little.
So we might as well get that, that would help us pay our sheriff's contract, because this is working, I think, working out very well.
Thank you, Sheriff. Yes. So, our contract is for full-time sheriff, right?
Yes. Oh, that's essentially correct.
Yeah, so, adding up, including the time off, training court, and the hours spent in the contract, that comes to 131 hours. And full-time work is between 160 and 176 hours a month. So I'm wondering the discrepancy of, anywhere between, 29 and, whatever that is, 43 hours.
Madam Mayor, can we save this for the discussion with the sheriff? This is the Deputy Elstrom would really have the information to inform this.
Okay. Well, yes, and I echo that this is a very helpful report. Thank you.
Sergeant Bell.
Sergeant, thank you.
Casey does the work.
Should I speak to conversations we've had about safety zones or?
Yeah, if you wanna,
Can I ask one question before we get to that?
Sure.
On your list of incidents, where are the discussions with the homeless guys and girls that are on?
Those might be sitcoms or field interrogation or field interviews.
Because I've noticed you guys doing them, and I just wondered where they were.
Yeah, well, to that note, we have had one lady walking up and down Depoe Van 101. We did actually get her connected with Lincoln County Crisis in the last day, and I think she is down in Newport getting some resources right now.
Okay.
So
That was my next question. what do we do with them?
Yeah.
If they're willing to be connected with county crisis, like she was, county crisis will come speak with them and try and offer the resources they have to her that are available. And I say, it worked out perfectly.
We have not reached a situation yet where somebody refuses something, where they say, I'm staying in Depoe Bay, you know, you can't make me move, and we can't, and that's something we're gonna have to address if he cannot force them to leave Depoe Bay if they decide they wanna stay. So it's part of the law, so we'll talk more at some point about the Supreme Court case and how that doesn't really impact us at this point. Deputy Elstrom, I took a ride with him in the front of the car. Just so you know, we went downtown and looked at the seawall. There was an incident where
Semi-trailer hit a vehicle that was sticking out of the parking spot on the west side of the highway. Which is a common enough occurrence.
there's a lot of long trucks.
Mhm.
So he had an idea and thought that we're gonna investigate.
But it just kind of made me start looking at the parking spaces down there and we actually measured them out. The parking spaces on the west side of the highway are almost 22 feet long. The ones on the east side of the highway are 29 feet long. So if you're notice driving northbound, vehicles aren't sticking out of the highway nearly as much as they are when you're driving south. So what Kim and I are having discussions about, getting those spaces blocked off, not blocked off, but turned actual spaces to where it would be easier to enforce if vehicles are sticking out into the highway. Because as of right now, it's a little bit subjective from my point of view, whether or not to cite some of these people. Some of the people who park there, it's so blatant that they're in the lane of travel that they do get citations. Some are very close and will have to go before a judge and have the judge look at it and say, maybe not. I'd rather a judge say, yes, that's absolutely a violation. So we are looking at
I
contacting
learned what
ODOT.
fog lines are.
Yes.
60 years old, didn't know what those were. So, I know we had terrible, I've never heard them called that. So one of his ideas was to put a fog line behind those to make it not only easier for him to see, to know, but for your people to go in there and maybe even signing it as compact only on that side.
Yeah.
Or mid-sized compact, because that's what.
Something, yeah, we have to look into that.
But we have to contact ODOT since it's on the highway, find out what we're gonna be allowed to do and not do.
And it's not, to go up, there's so many citations, so hopefully people will see that and say, yes, this is not a good place to park my 30-foot vehicle.
Can we not change the angle to increase the amount of space?
Blasphemy.
I believe that is, in fact, Public Works Director Brady could probably speak to something, he's told me that, ODOT says if we want to do any restriping or change anything, we have to go parallel, right?
Yeah, as
So-
long as we maintain what's currently there.
Yeah, if we try to change anything, now creating a fog line behind them may not trigger that ODOT thing, that's what we're gonna find out, but for sure, restriping them and angling them.
There was an ODOT proposal to do that at one point here. And that caused just a lot of consternation in town. So if you want to throw the hand grenade into the hole, that would be a way to do it.
I wasn't even here and I heard that.
Alrighty, well, we'll work on fog lines.
Okay.
Sounds good, thank you.
And I forgot to add that we do have an addition to the agenda, under new business, we'll add a number 6 up. My apologies.
I passed the memo.
I'm sorry, what is that?
That was my fault for not getting it as a revision on the agenda. Councilor King had asked, and she had sent me that memo yesterday that she wants to.
Who, I'm sorry, I'm missing, is this on here, is this on?
No,
here?
it's not on here.
What is?
I passed that.
I missed it.
I'm adding a request from Councilor King for the agenda, number 6, under new business.
Which is?
Which is the memo that we got.
Here, that's
Here you go, there's a copy.
All right, let's move on here. We'll do committee reports, commission reports, emergency preparedness.
Yeah, we're really busy. We have a lot of good ideas, I think, coming up. We're thinking about the possibility of Well, since we have 3 representatives on our committee, from Stonebridge and U of Bay and also Local Code, thought it would be a really good idea to maybe have these HOA people meet with each other. I'm not sure what that looks like. I don't know if it's gonna be an informal meeting. I don't know if HOAs have bylaws to where they don't want to share information. I'm not sure what it looks like, but 3 committee members that are on HOA thought I had some promise, so we're looking into that. We also have, I think I mentioned this the last meeting, that we received something from the Hatfield Science Center called, we visited the cache, and they gave us their manual, which was wonderful. And we're going to be looking at the 61 pages from that manual regarding their cache information, come back at our next meeting and give our ideas as to what we think we can apply to Depoe Bay. So we're really happy to receive that information. Gina, also, possibility of having a barrel program, and I've mentioned this before to my committee. Seaside and Kansas City have a supplement basically for their for their caches, to where people have 50-gallon barrels in their garage as long as fine enough to have something like that. And they just have the same type of supplies. Because I think it has merit, because the caches that we have can do just so much. I think it's the food we have and the supplies we have are not going to last that long. So we have supplemental barrels with the same thing in garages that where we can put this type of thing. I think that would be really advantageous to us. The other thing, Mayor Shorten are working on content information for our city website, working on that. And then the next meeting is going to be on the 19th of August. And it's kind of like in the future, because we have a lot of people, myself included, on vacation the next couple of months. So we have a busy committee right now.
Yes, you do. And have a good vacation.
Thank you.
You sir. Any questions for Joyce? I didn't understand about the barrels. You're asking, looking into whether private people would allow additional barrels in their garages, or would it be private people having their own?
Well, we would want them to share with the community. And Seaside has a whole contract, and you go on the Degami map to make sure that your house can accommodate something like that. It's high enough that it would be for the community. So my concern is we have 6 or 7 caches. And I think we need more stuff, you know, and if we have these barrels in the garages, I just think that would help with it. You know, if it's on the 4th of July, when something happens, earthquake or something, I just would like to have more supplies for whatever the situation is called for.
So that's in addition to, or maybe in addition to, or just say we got another lot where we have things stored, do we still need that?
I'm thinking it wouldn't hurt.
Yeah, I'm just concerned about complex logistics and keeping track of things and. Well, that's not a huge concern, but it's always interesting to me to try to simplify, especially in emergencies, to know where things are and have things dispersed, but,
And these are things we're looking at. Seaside, their plan, and of course, the homeowner would have a contract, and it would be, you know, replacing the items like every 5 years. So it's very well thought out. Their plan would be, if we have an emergency, roll your barrel to the curb and the city will pick it up for some type of distribution. My thought is, if I have a 50-gallon barrel in my garage, how's the city gonna pick it up? And so I think if there's enough to disperse all over the city, that I could help my neighborhood. Although cash would be a walking distance possibly. If we have barrels as well, I just think it would be additional.
and it's certainly worth considering.
I think so.
Mayor?
Yes.
May I? I just wanted to echo Councilor Red. My concern is the complexity of this, adding another layer of what to do, how to do, where to do it.
Well, we
This
don't
is
know
under
this yet.
discussion,
We don't have an answer yet, but it's just in the
just
thinking
an
about it.
idea to share.
But I know that Seaside does it, Kansas City does it, and I'm sure other people do that we're not aware of. They have sent us their information on how to do it. And so we just received that. So I'll be talking more about it, and hopefully there will be something that we can look at.
Alrighty. Anyone from Harvard this evening?
Pardon, Mayor, I got an email message from Jack Burright, who's the Harbor Commission representative from for this month. He is not able to join us tonight. He says he's out in the field and he didn't think he was gonna be able to get on Zoom. But he said there isn't really anything new to report on the Harbor Commission meetings at the end of this month.
Alrighty. Planning. Eric, did you have a little something for planning?
No, nothing new. Our meeting normally would have been last week. This month we had it rescheduled for this week, prearranged. There was a conflict or something. So we're having our meeting tomorrow. I only had one question for the council. Do we have a new city planner lined up yet?
We did get an application today.
Yay.
It had very good potential.
All right.
That's good news. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, meetings tomorrow night, and we'll see you at the next meetings.
Did we have a resignation?
Yeah, we did. I think I saw it on the agenda for you guys tonight. But yeah, one of our planning commissioners resigned. And thankfully with the minor restructuring that council performed last year on the planning commission, we still got a quorum and we got a little wiggle room still, but I did see a sheet of vacant city committee and commission things there, so if anybody wants to do something, there's plenty of things to do for free. Yeah.
Thank you, Eric. Dennis, did you have something to say?
Yes, I do. We held our fin clipping on Saturday the 13th. We had several people show up, including 2 from the Coast Guard.
Nice.
Did a very nice job. We're a little at a loss to figure out where 5,000 fish went, but we did get 14,000 clipped.
Wow, that's great.
Hopefully you'll find them.
We got 20,000 eggs, and we only had 800 lost that way and about 100 from natural causes. We kind of like to know where the other 4,000 went.
Yeah. Okay, good luck with that.
Okay,
Any other questions for Dennis? Thank you.
I missed everybody up there.
Oh, I forgot.
Have you checked out the bald eagles flying over the reservoir?
Yeah, it's been fun. But they don't get into the pen.
Okay.
I heard
Maybe problem might be the
kingfishers.
kingfishers.
I was gonna say, somebody told me about kingfishers going and get,
We don't know.
what about the otters?
The otters did not make it into the pen.
Good.
We haven't seen any holes in the net.
Good net then.
How many,
So much.
how many people attended?
That I don't know. Beatty will have to have that information when he gets back.
Were you concerned about,
When
how
he's
many-
going in the water.
were you concerned about how many people showed up? Like, you guys were worried there would be too many people that showed up, so,
Beatty was worried we would have too many with all the flyers I
right,
put out,
Right.
but we had less than we had last year or year before, so.
because you wouldn't let me talk about it. Tell me,
Okay,
you wouldn't let me spread the word.
I tried.
I'll talk to Beanie.
Okay.
Alrighty. Thank you, Dennis. Loretta, were you here for Parks this evening?
She isn't.
Okay.
Your Parks representative, I don't think he was going to come tonight, so I didn't think I can think of something must have happened, because he was planning on being here tonight.
Oh,
The Parks Commission is talking about the National Night Out and planning for that. And in fact, I will be doing some announcements, because we had a good planning meeting with I don't know if the sheriff showed up. I don't think he showed up. think he ditched me, but Coast Guard was there, had some great ideas, including taking photos on our boats. They're gonna be there, and we had some really great ideas, and we're gonna be looking at maybe reinventing the ducky derby. But we're still working out the details of that, so. But I will probably be providing something by the end of this week, so everybody can see what kind of fun we're gonna have on National Night Out.
Including a dunk tank.
Oh, including a dunk tank. It's yet to be determined on who's gonna be in it. And a bounce house that looks like a first response unit for the kids. We couldn't get both. We'll have to do it earlier next year. The mayor wanted a bigger one too, so she could play. That will have to wait till next year.
Budgets.
Yeah, well, no, just later, everybody's will go.
Alrighty.
Oh, and we'll be, Loretta is now a member of the community, and she's gonna be looking at and exploring options for potential movies in the park.
Oh, right, yeah. Perfect. Okay, we are going to do public comments at this point. They will be limited to 3 minutes each. Yes. I'm ready to speak.
And please, when you come up to speak, please just sign or print your name, and if you could just put the city that you live in, you don't have to put your exact address.
What's your name?
My name is Betty McCain. Thank you for allowing me to speak here tonight. I'm a 76-year-old, born and raised Oregonian. I'm the daughter of a veteran, and I'm a proud mother of 2 Navy veterans who chose to swear an allegiance to the Constitution. The Constitution is the backbone of American rights. Our First Amendment guarantees the right to free speech, written and oral. It has come to my attention that this city council wants to introduce ordinances which would ban these rights or restrict them. I'm referring to political signs and flags. This is unconstitutional. In the Supreme Court ruling, Reed versus Town, Arizona 576 US 2015, they said displaying signs in a fundamental court in showing support for a candidate or an issue is considered is core political speech. It's given the highest form of protection by the First Amendment. That means any law or ordinances regulating what people say or have signs is core political speech and must meet a very high standard called strict scrutiny. It does not violate the First Amendment. So it's come to our attention that you guys might be doing some kind of ordinance to prevent people from voicing their opinion, which is part of their constitutional right. And I just want to let you guys know that as a citizen, I'll be watching.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
No clapping, I'm sorry. Not allowed. Any other comments? Yes. What's your name?
My name is Marie McFarland.
Thank you.
Follow up what Beth said. Our First Amendment states, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for the redress of grievances. In essence, First Amendment rights protect an individual's religious freedom, the free press, the free expression from interference of the federal government. Through more than 200 years of court cases, the US Supreme Court has been tasked with interpreting the First Amendment to determine the breadth of these fundamental rights. This was adopted in 1791. The First Amendment of the Constitution protects many of the civil rights associated with life as an American, including free speech, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, and freedom of the press. It also addresses the right to protest peacefully and petition the government. It was added to the Constitution along with 9 other amendments, which together became known as the Bill of Rights. I would like to know who has given this committee the rights to interpret the First Amendment laws of the Constitution. The last I knew, the Supreme Court is the body that can make interpretations of the law when it comes to the Constitution. In essence, we have no rights to take anyone's constitutional rights away from them for anyone who is running for an office or someone who displays a flag or speaks about things they disagree. And I too have a husband who spent 31 and a half years in the military, retired, and have many members of my family have served. And we are very concerned about freedom of speech and the ability not just to place signs, but also flags and our freedoms.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
Let's sign in first.
Sure, that's fine. What's your name?
Thank you.
What was your name?
Hi, good evening, Mayor.
What was your name?
City councilors. My name is Carolyn Lynn.
Thank you, Carolyn.
You're welcome. I reside in Lincoln City. I spend a lot of time in Depoe Bay visiting friends who live here, including business owners, retail shops, dining, and tourist activities. I'm here tonight to provide public testimony regarding a June 18th agenda item, first reading, ordinance 349-24, amendment to municipal code, temporary signage. Well, I don't live here, my friend Cindy does, and I want you to understand the impact that your decisions have when you propose ordinances that clearly are overreaching and overregulating and likely violate the First Amendment and constitutional rights of citizens. It seems that whenever a municipality is thinking of more regulation, it seems to be contagious, as evidenced by recent passage of firework restrictions up and down the coast, a great idea for some based on PTSD, barking, upset pets, or just general disdain for the sound of fireworks and the celebration that comes with that holiday. Rarely does it lead to fire, and every public service agency, fire departments, and police are stretched thin now and unable to enforce these ordinances. I believe this issue of signage may have come about because we are heading toward a general election in November, and residents in all towns up and down the coast in Lincoln County have strong opinions on who they support as candidates, as well as issues coming up for vote. Many residents like to express their support or disdain for a candidate or policy. When they do so by flying a certain flag or signage on their personal property, they are absolutely protected by the First Amendment. This is settled case law up to the Supreme Court. My friend who lives here owns 3 city lots up the hill from Highway 101 in the middle of town. Her house is new, her lot is tidy, she is a retired 80-year-old widow, and she takes great pride in living in Depoe Bay. She also has signage on her property, and the key 2 words here are her property. Whether a resident has a political sign or just an advertisement to slow down, kids present, piano lessons here, or eggs for sale, this is not the position of elected officials to regulate choice and expression. I am here tonight to ask that you seriously consider the legal implications of suppressing free speech, as it would cost the city of Depoe Bay money to defend any lawsuits. Thank you for your consideration and time this evening.
Thank you for being here. Alrighty. Is that everyone? Yes.
Hi, my name's Gail Muller, and I'm a resident of Lincoln City also. So I was born in Portland in Emmanuel Hospital, and I have lived and worked in Oregon my entire life in 5 different counties.
And it's really important to me, property rights, and I thought about this a lot, and it really goes back to my grandparents on both sides of the family were homesteaders in the Midwest. Families are still ranching and farming the property, and it established a quality of life that has carried through to my generation, I believe, and my future generations of my sons and grandsons. So my stance on property rights is maybe perhaps a little bit more philosophical, but I did some research, and as I tend to do as a business major, and I dug into two renowned legal scholars and academic gentlemen, and I think that if we think back to the history of property rights, it goes all the way back to the Magna Carta, when King John was, overreaching his subjects, even to the point that the barons and the earls and his clergy rebelled against him and in establishing that those parameters carried into our founding fathers and how they felt. So James B. Lee Jr. said, we should briefly explore the role of property rights in establishment of representative self-government. Properties serve two vital overlapping functions in a free society. Stable property rights are a powerful inducement for creation of prosperity. Additionally, property rights have long been linked to individual liberty. An economic system grounded on respect for private ownership tends to diffuse power and strengthen individuals' autonomy from government. In contrast, there are few examples of free societies that do not respect the rights of property owners. One could maintain that without a guarantee of property rights, the enjoyment of other individual liberties, such as freedom of speech, would be meaningless. Justice Joseph Story in 1829 stated, "The fundamental maxims of free government seems to require that the rights of a person, personal liberties, and private property should be sacred." In addition,
minutes are now up.
thank you.
Thank you for coming, I appreciate it. Any others? Alrighty, we will move on to unfinished business then. We've got the contract with the deputy.
That's under new business now,
Yes. Oh, new business, I'm sorry, unfinished business. None of that, okay, now new business.
We need again for record representative and the sheriff.
Yes, thank you, Sheriff.
Do you want me to address maybe a couple of questions that already have
Yes.
presented first? And
That would be great, thank you.
So to go back to the agreement and the renewal, there is a built-in renewal that we did for this intergovernmental agreement, IGA. And basically states, as you pointed out, that by March 15th, we provide the city with an estimate. By May 1st, the city provides us, based on their internal processes, how they want to proceed, if they want to proceed with that estimate or if the estimate has changed. This year, in the fall for the city, that estimate has changed a lot. So I'll just put it that way. There's been a lot of variables. You probably have seen in the media a lot of discussions with the county commissioners, the cities of Walport, Yachats, for a different type of agreement and partnership. I want to emphasize different because it was going to be significantly different than the agreement with the city of Depoe Bay. That ultimately was turned down by the county commissioners. But during that time, we realized that our initial estimate was at nearly $200,000 to continue that service, which was just a significant increase from the previous year. Those costs went up for a couple of reasons. Number one, the Lincoln County Deputies Association, through the collective bargaining agreement and arbitration, were awarded a 2-year agreement that totaled 10% for a cost of living increase. That was very substantial, and which would go into effect this year. We actually had a year that we were paying, 2 years that we were paying it, that the city, because of the estimates last year were already agreed upon, didn't pay for it, so actually 1 year was covered by the county. The other part of it was the indirect costs that the county was requiring me to include in intergovernmental agreements went up over 18%, which was significant in this contract. And so we started going in trying to determine what is the city paying for? Because you're gonna ask me, I'm gonna ask county, what our county administrator, Tim Johnson, basically said, we don't know. There was a formula, they handed me a sheet that was probably this big from an Excel spreadsheet that was not very understandable. What the county administrator realized is this needs to be reworked. There are a lot of areas on there that, and I understand what some indirect costs are, therefore our county human resources department, our legal, or our finance, all those things that internally go into operate a county and that we need to do. I understand there were some other things that we had as far as our, that we use that internal, the indirect cost for body cameras and other contracts we have that for some of the things that we provide with the deputy that they have as a tool, some of those things, dispatch costs are another thing that was built in that I considered that. In my discussions with the county and County Administrator Johnson, we decided at this point for all our contracts to not charge any direct costs. I did build in, when going back and forth with that, some estimates, again, with some of those charges that on an estimate per deputy cost, like for dispatch, our Axon body camera contract, that significant amount, those things I knew that we were paying per deputy, that I could show you what the costs are, build in an average and build those in. And then we basically provided in what that number was, but it took significantly longer. I mean, this was down, I don't remember, we got final estimate at 180. Yeah, so it was after what you were required to provide us, but we were in direct contact with Kim going through the process. So that was, basically how it should go is March 15th, we provide an estimate. Sometimes we know good costs, but again, the county's just really starting our budget process. So again, we are in collective bargaining right now with our association. We have an expired agreement that expired on June 30th. We don't know what those costs will be. Again, this is going to be one of those things that will not be included in this year. It will actually move forward to next year. There is a small amount based in there, which I think is 3%, but I know that the current agreement right now is already over 3% for the first year, so it's already going to be benefit to the city moving forward. But then at least we're looking at a 3-year contract, so we'll have those, will be a little more established moving forward. Does that help explain? Okay. Answer the question on the number of hours. So there are a couple different ways to do these agreements. Number one, we can do them for a total number of hours that we provide the city. If we want to do 40 hours a week, that would guarantee to spend 40 hours in the city of that enhanced service. Or like we do with this agreement, we do it for one full-time deputy, excluding the time off, training, those type of things that would come with a deputy to, basically you're paying for one deputy when they take time off, just like if you had a police department, if you had however many person police department, you'd pay for that person, but when they have time off, you're still paying them. And then that's what we're really trying to show you how many hours goes into that as far as when the deputy takes time off, if he's sick, those type of leaves go into it. We've had other contracts that have asked us for how much would it cost us for an actual number of hours. How we calculate that is we would basically take what an average deputy works, and we found out that estimate is over a year for a full-time person, that's 2,080 hours. We, if you work 40 hours a week, we estimate now based on the time off banks and training, everything that goes in it, roughly about 1,500 hours is what's basically we are providing that enhanced services in the city. And so we would have to cover those other hours with overtime from other deputies to come in and provide that to get you your 40 hours per week. And then those costs significantly go up. Besides that, I provided that for the city of Walport, but I also told them, I gave them the cost, but I also told them at this point, we really can't do that. We are already running thin with our staffing levels and our recruiting challenges for general fund deputies. And we just really cannot provide that. We can't really, our deputies are already working enough overtime as is to add something else into it. So I wasn't able to agree with moving that forward if the city wanted to desire that at that time.
So, what is the vacation policy for a deputy that's worked, for your department for 5 years and shit?
So deputy coming in, starting, gets 10 hours vacation per month and 8 hours of sick leave. And then that for the first 0 to 5 years. At every 5 years, it goes up 2 hours a month for vacation and the sick leave stays the same. You
So
also
sick
got-
leave stays the same?
Sick leave stays the same. You also got to consider too, I don't know if Deputy Elstrom has taken any over since it's been in effect, but we also have the new Oregon leave law, which doesn't actually use banks. So a deputy can actually take time off without utilizing those banks. And then we also have an average number of required training hours that we have to, provide. Some of that can be done remotely, we do a lot of training we can virtually, remotely, they can take, a lot of training online. But there's some things, firearms, defensive tactics, those things are required annually, we have to, take the person away to that.
So, yeah, so in the report that we get from the deputy, then, we're looking at, our contract says we have a full-time deputy. Right. The report shows 130 hours, and so there's just 30 hours that's not reported somewhere in the report is what you're
It's about
basically saying.
40 hours or so, that wasn't,
And so-
that was time off, for whatever.
Well, they're reporting 91 hours of contract work, 30 hours of time off, and 10 hours of training in court.
Okay.
And so that's 131 hours, so there's still, 29 hours of additional.
Yes.
I just wanted to ask, like today, Casey and I were gonna go out and look at a couple places, but he had to drive Newport to fix his printer.
Okay.
How's that track?
So I don't know if that's considered the time that not spent in Depot Bay, I'll ask the lieutenant.
Because maybe that's,
I think that would be considered time for that particular purpose, because he needs his ticket writing machine or computer operational, and since there's no IT person here in the city, he has to go down where IT is located.
so it'd be counted as contract hours or?
Yes, but it's not captured currently in how we measure it.
Right, so that could be one reason that would fill those hours.
Because we're measuring it with basically a GPS system. Yeah. So that's a good segue into some discussions. Now, again, going back to Walport or not, when the county commissioners did not allow us to enter a partnership where we were going to actually, the cost was going to go down, but we were going to provide some county covers. Walport really wanted to tighten up their agreement as far as what the deputy leaves the city for. And so I did some thinking on this and looking at how best to accomplish that. And what I came up with is we need to look at it like if this was a city police department, or like the city of Newport, Lincoln City, and Toledo. When do their officers leave the city to help us, or for whatever reasons they need to go out? And that really needs to be the criteria for when the deputy leaves the city to go out for other things. Now, it's a little bit different because our fueling station, our evidence locker, going down and getting our computer fixed are unfortunately all down in Newport. So it's gonna be a little bit more, like Newport has all those things in the city. But as far as when a deputy goes outside the city to take a call or respond to a call, we have made those more strict guidelines as they're not gonna go unless it's emergency to life. And they're only gonna be outside the city for those times until another deputy responds and takes over that scene, and they're gonna be returned to the city. In the report you have, and thank goodness we have a new computer-aided dispatch CAD system that we're using because it can provide this in more detailed report. Those areas in red are gonna be the times when the deputy does go out for whatever reason, and you're gonna get a justification why that deputy was out. And so that will help you, and it should increase those hours that are there. Again, with our staffing challenges, just the number of staff, even if you're full staff, and then also recruiting challenges, the deputies working together want to help out each other. And if there's a call just outside the city and the deputy that is supposed to respond is, half hour away, they're like, I'm just right here, I'm gonna go take a call and I'll come back. But we got to tighten that up for our contract areas. The city pays us a lot, our contracts are a lot of, and so we need to tighten this up. it's not the city's fault that the county's not providing enough deputies so that the citizen doesn't have to wait just outside the city. It's unfortunate for me because I want to provide service because I'm the county sheriff to all those areas. But I also have to value our contracts because you're paying for another deputy and now looking at two, that I need to value those contracts for what the city's paying and look at those situations and make sure I make good decisions as far as when that deputy leaves. Now, again, I don't want to see anybody get hurt, deputy or citizen. So if there is an emergency, just like the city of Newport goes out and helps us, they've been all the way down to Walport, this was recently, last week, to help us with a call. City of Lincoln City has been down here. Again, they come down, whatever it is, help out, it's an emergency situation, turn to go right back to the city. So there's some mutual aid agreements that if you had a city police department, you would enter in with all of us. Again, it's just like major crime teams, you get the resources, having the major crash team, major crime team, if there's a major crime that happens in the city, you're gonna get detectives from all the agencies. That's the benefit of working in Lincoln County and having law enforcement. We work really well. But again, we need to tighten up, and so you have a good report so you can tell your constituents when they see Deputy Elstrom taking a call outside, you can say, well, the justification's right here. That was an emergency situation. We still need to go out help somebody's in immediate danger of life.
Questions for the sheriff?
I have a question.
Yes.
Sheriff, I thank you so much for this new report, on the way you're
The
handling
team and the
things.
sergeant are doing that.
They're doing an excellent job for us. I can't tell you how pleased I am. And I've heard this from, our council in general, that what I see is a pattern on law enforcement here. Is it possible to jumble that pattern around so that an officer just isn't here from Sunday through Thursday, but can maybe be here through, Thursday through Wednesday or something like that?
So again, it's difficult with one to cover all 7 days.
I just want to make it unpredictable.
Yeah, I understand that, and obviously routine and unpredictable is what we're trained to do. Don't be in the same place at the same time every day. You want to vary your patrols, vary your areas that you're checking. Those are, during especially the hours you are on duty. That's just good police work. With a contract like this, I can only tell you that we can only change a deputy schedule every 6 months when they go on rotation. So we can only adjust those days, which is in mutual agreement between the city and us. We want input from the city. When do you want to see your deputy up here? But we also have to look at our collective bargaining agreement on, we can't just change shift arbitrarily. Right now, the deputies bid for their shifts every 6 months. And so we have 6-month rotations on February 1st and August 1st. And that's when we can make those adjustments and consider desires of different set of days off, those type of things. Walport is, again, since they went down to 1, they really need to look at it because when they had 2, they could cover every day of the week with a deputy. So that was a little easier. You were going to see a deputy, when they're on 1 day, every day of the week. But when you have just 1, they're looking at, okay, this next 6 months, we want to change that. We want to go to, I think they want to go Friday through Monday. And those are different scenarios we can do. We want enough time ahead that the city would like that change so we can look at it, put it out when we do our shift bid process. Now, you're very fortunate to have Deputy Elstrom who wants to be up here instead of resulting in, what we do is we actually open it up to deputies who desire to work in a contract area. Obviously, it's different than working the other areas when we have a deputy works all north, east, or south, where you're covering the area all from north of Newport all the way up to Otis, Rose Lodge, Huntington Beach, all the way down Otter Rock, and so on. It's different when you're here, and there's advantages and disadvantages. Some of the advantages are that he doesn't have to fight for his time off with other deputies. We only allow 1 deputy off per shift in the other areas. He doesn't have to fight for anybody, he's his own deputy. The other areas we look at it is what days off does he desire too, to be, because it's good to have the same person up here as much as we can instead of resorting to the shift bid, because if nobody wants it, then we put it in the shift bid, and then it's whoever is on the spot when the mark comes up to take that bid. Now, I can tell you, all our deputies are great. You're going to get a good deputy no matter how it goes down. Somebody that wants to be here, obviously, it makes it more desirable. So we want to try to balance that with what his work, home life balance is too, and also what the city needs for their services and their needs.
Thank you, Mayor.
Mayor, I would like to also echo what Councilor Beasley said. I'm looking at the July schedule, and it's summertime in Depoe Bay. Our busiest days are Friday and Saturday. We have no deputy coverage on Fridays and Saturdays. And so I would assume that if we need to make a call, we're getting a deputy from wherever they're available, and we're gonna wait, 45 minutes, an hour, whatever that is, to get somebody here to be able to do that. And so I would just like to echo, when we start looking at this schedule, we need to take into account the fact that, our busiest time is these weekends in the summer, and it's a little concerning that we don't have any deputy coverage.
Now, I'll also kind of segue in again to the two deputy conversation, again, that obviously we would have somebody 7 days a week. Without that, it doesn't make sense to duplicate a schedule regardless. So that would, obviously alleviate both concerns there too, but obviously at a cost increase too. But we can definitely look at the schedules and accommodate what the city is desiring to.
If there's not gonna be overlap, why would we need another patrol car?
Oh, no, I'm saying there wouldn't be overlap. We would cover basically all 7 days, so that.
Right, but there wouldn't be overlap of the schedules. So why would we have to have a second patrol car? Why couldn't the
Oh, you
car
mean
be
the
left?
vehicle itself?
Why couldn't the vehicle be left at Depoe Bay City Hall?
So we made a decision years ago, right before I was even sheriff, but it was based on a study that I did actually. So I'm very familiar with this topic. I got to refresh my memory a little bit. But we have made a point to where any new deputies we get, the whole package comes with a vehicle, computer, everything, and so every deputy has their own car. Every deputy takes their vehicle to their residence. Every deputy, whether they're a contract deputy or not, is subject to call out in other areas of the county. We don't just use Deputy Elstrom and our other contract areas just for the city of Depoe Bay. If there's a call outside of the 40 hours that he's scheduled to be in Depoe Bay, then he can be called out to go anywhere at that point. So it's beneficial to have this vehicle at home. I also did the study on showing the cost. Now, the initial upfront cost is the big hit. But after that is actually, if you look at it all the way down to the end, it's actually cheaper to have their own individual cars for a number of reasons. Number one is to outfit a vehicle with the lights, siren, radio, the console, the back seat with the cage in it. Everything that goes into that vehicle is a substantial cost to us every time we outfit a new vehicle. If you only have one, you outfit a new vehicle more. They're still the same number of miles, whether you have 2 deputies or 1 deputy, they're gonna still put on the same number of miles. So the vehicles don't last as long and we have to do that transfer more. We've also found, because I go back to the days when we did share vehicles for the sheriff's office, that the upkeep of the cars, a deputy takes more pride when they have their own vehicle than if they're sharing. The car always seem to get more abuse. And I did studies around from agencies that had their own vehicles but not, just to outline that cost. And it showed that it was actually more expensive in the long run on those annual fleet costs and when you pay your replacement cost for that vehicle. And again, outfit it to do it. But again, it is a significant cost up front. That's where you pay the most. And then after that is an annual cost that is actually reduced over time, but where you would actually pay for that cost in so many years, and I had that outlined in my study when I did it years ago. And then you also get the advantage of the deputy having that car. Now, if we were able countywide to go and have enough deputies, have 24/7 coverage, where we didn't have to have deputies take the cars home, where they didn't have to be on call all the time because of hours we don't have covered, we would probably take another look at that because that may change a little bit because of the sheer number of cars we have to buy up front. We'd have to look at that formula, see when actually that cost would come back. So does that help answer a little bit of the question?
Mayor, I have one more question. If we took another deputy would that be a new hire or would it come from the existing?
So we would hire another person, that would add another full-time deputy to our mixes, but it doesn't necessarily mean the one we hire would be in Depoe Bay.
Got it.
And that's why we base on the fact that our cost is based on an average cost per deputy, not on a new deputy, because we just don't know who's going to be assigned up here. But we do need to add another one to our work.
I do have another question. So we're thinking of getting traffic signs, not signs, but the trailers.
Yes.
One on one side of town, one on the other, and also some crossing signs. How do you think having more signage impacts the burden on a deputy to enforce traffic?
I think it
Stops.
absolutely helps. I think all of us are driven by those speed signs and especially for those ones that are driving in the unaware status. That some of them have lights on and flash and do different things that you can get, but it puts the individual in the aware status to feel like, oh, I'm going this fast and that's the speed limit. I need to slow down. Now, so it definitely helps. It definitely helps reduce speed and crosswalks, that obviously you see those flashing again, it puts somebody in awareness. So it does significantly reduce that. You still can't, you still have those situations where you have people that are gonna speed no matter what, that know those signs are there. And that's when, again, your deputy comes in because you gotta have the awareness, the education, and the enforcement to be, I think a lot of like some of those signs goes into probably a little bit of the, especially the crosswalks, but the engineering, and all three of those things, enforcement, engineering, and education, all go into a good traffic enforcement program.
Yes.
So the contract that is in the intergovernment agreement is a single year agreement with an automatic renewal. Is that a fair assessment?
Yes, because the city has the option of not accepting the estimate and can dissolve. You really could actually, I think it's 60-day notice, you can actually terminate the contract at any time, but the way it's based is on an annual agreement. But if the contract's written so we don't have to go to all the legal teams back and forth every year. We found that useful when we had the contract in the city of Walport for over 20 years. We initially had where every year we had to go and redo the contract and the language, and every year it was, set up for a meeting and the legal team would review it. So the legal team basically came in and put this into where it still allows for the city or the county to opt out of it. Provides an estimate if we know the costs are going to change. That's going to be a huge concern and basically up for discussion point for the city to take into consideration. And then for the city to give us written notice of time to where if they decided not to continue the contract, then obviously if we were full staff, we would need to obviously look at layoffs. I don't see that happening.
And the asset, the automobile asset, does it belong to the sheriff's department or does it belong to the city?
See, that was something we did not build in. And one of the things that has come up with our discussions with the city of Jajas, because they're desiring, I'm actually going there tomorrow to talk to their city council about the same thing and starting up one. It's one of those things that wasn't built in, but I think should have been, that whatever type of cost, it shouldn't be just given to us if all of a sudden 1 year you just said, no, we don't want it. I wouldn't say, we'd probably have to work on an agreement with this to either give you the car if you wanted it, but I don't know if you do, or a cost, depreciation, how much, because we would use the car somewhere else, obviously, we could use that car. And then look at that as far as that cost allocation back to the city if we decided not to do it. Obviously, what we found in the city of Walport is that over time, because you pay for that replacement cost every year once the initial cost is in there. So after so many years, that would probably just drop off and then it would be, you stop paying that replacement cost on an annual basis. So then it would just be the county's once it was done.
So, the current invoice for the 183,000, that includes the annual
cost of the vehicle.
Yes, it is.
So,
And the replacement costs in the future for when we need another new car to replace that.
yeah, so there's nothing in the contract about prorating it if we don't continue.
That initial 60,000 that you paid for that first year, the upfront cost, so there's nothing currently in there, so what would happen? I remember when we talked with the mayor, at that point, one of my questions was, you know, what do you foresee this contract going? Because for cost, budget, whatever, it was basically, well, no, we're looking at a long term. And so then I'm like, okay, well, then we're probably good because over long term, we'd be fine because eventually that cost of that first vehicle would run out with depreciation, and then you're basically on the annual cost from there for that vehicle. But if you're looking again, the second one, want that language built in, that's something we have talked about. We just need to work on what that cost would be as far as depreciation. We can talk to our fleet because the vehicles are our largest cost. You know, some of those other things, firearms, you know, it's expensive. Computer's expensive, but again, those computers have a shorter life than a car. But that car, what is the cost we're looking at?
44 to 46,000 depending on the month, but the way autos are going right now.
And then the outfit.
And then 20,000 to 22,000 a month up to.
So that's the biggest cost we want to look at as far as, if after 1 year, the city decided not to continue that, what would be that reimbursement back as far as depreciation? We could ask our fleet to determine. I'm sure he has a formula based on when this vehicle is replaced, how long they last.
Any other questions? Sure.
There was a time, Mayor, when the sheriff's department loaned us a vehicle and we put a mannequin in it. And that was our police department.
Right, I remember that one, I think our harbor master has that car now.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yes.
Got a lot of use out of that vehicle then too, so, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
So I think the question before council this evening is if we've got it covered in our budget to have 2 deputies, so we need to go forward with the motion to accept or not.
I'd like to make a motion to accept it. Second deputy.
Okay.
I think we owe it to our citizens to be fully covered.
Okay.
Just point of clarification, do you want the motion to accept the agreement under the first terms, or do you want to enter negotiations for the second deputy? Because otherwise, if you say under the current terms, we would just get another contract.
Am I out of line if I add a couple of things? Mayor? So I would like to, especially if you go to 2, revise that contract language with very similar language that we're currently considering for the city of Walport. It adds a little bit more of that when the deputy responds outside the city. I've been currently working with the city manager down there to revise that language as we have several revisions going back and forth today. I think all of it would benefit the city on some of that language tightening up moving forward. The other thing I want to say that I should add in there that while the city may, move forward with 2, and I agree to move forward with 2, the county commissioner still have final approval on adding that. One of the 2 things that the county commissioners, even though I'm an elected official, oversee is my budget and the number of positions I have. So you would need to get the final approval on that from the county commissioners list. And I say that because that hasn't been easy in the last couple of meetings.
Mayor, I'll second that if it hasn't been seconded.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded
What is the motion, please?
to add a second deputy to our,
And the clarification related to the contract?
Maybe do begin negotiations and discussion with the addition of time next month.
right. All of it.
Is that enough to give you enough to work with, Sheriff?
Yes, it is. I think that, that what others basically gives a direction that we can work on that agreement, revise that agreement, bring it back to the council for the official vote on whether or not they approve that agreement.
So, we're not ready for discussion.
It's been had a second, but we clarified it. So it's to begin to approve moving forward with a second adding a second deputy. Right. But it still come back to some kind of approval, but at least it's a start. Right. Are you okay with that, Councilor? Okay, and Councilor Beasley, are you okay with that second?
I am okay with the second.
It's been moved and seconded, open for discussion. So, this is the first time we have gotten detailed information on the actual hours spent and, how much and how much isn't there. And I don't know if there's a rush to make this decision until we have a few more months of detailed information about what's happening, how we're spending the money, and how the deputy's spending time. And I don't see a need to rush this through. I think we should have another month or two of detailed information about the services we're getting, the time we're spending, before we make a decision. And do look at that language. There's a few things I heard tonight that I thought were good ideas about trying to make sure we get coverage, busy tourist season, on weekends that we don't have in our contract now. And I just, most of the stops are traffic stops, which is, really important. But I believe the motion is just to keep it in the budget.
To move forward.
With all of this.
But not making the decision to do it, because the sheriff said he's gotta go to the board, and then they're gonna bring the draft contract back to you. So you will have a chance to negotiate terms.
So it's just going forward. Well, I'm not even sure that we can make a decision, or I can't make a decision, I don't wanna make a decision, until I have more information about, for a few months on what we're getting for the amount of money that we're paying. And when the.
And that's what they're working on for us.
No, the discussion is, from what I heard Sheriff Landers say, was that, trying to make sure that a deputy boarding in Walport is to have more, specific time within the city. It doesn't deal with any of the other things that I'd like it to deal with.
It can deal with whatever you want the sheriff to discuss with you. When it comes to negotiating contracts, it's about what the parties agree to, so the council can determine what they want, speak about it with the sheriff, and then ultimately find it. This is just to get started with the process. Right. There's no binding commitment except to get started with the process and to come up with an agreement that hopefully works with everybody.
And we'll ultimately go through the county commissioners as well.
Right.
Question, what would be the follow-up motion? Is this issue over with this vote that we're
Yeah,
making?
we can go forward with adding another and then going through.
Right after this?
Right.
Okay.
Subject to the negotiations with the contract. Right.
So I'd like to have the motion read back to me, because I've heard a motion that says we're going to add a second deputy, but then I've heard discussions that we are going into negotiation. Those two things are they're very different from each other.
I believe the motion was to move forward with adding a second deputy, which would include negotiations, discussion, approval by the Board of County Commissioners.
Exactly.
That's clear, yes.
Any other discussion on the motion?
I would just like to point out, if I could, that back in 2003, and you're gonna hear the history lesson that I always come back with, that is transient lodging taxes were allocated at 1% for law enforcement. And I did some research, and I had Carla pull an ordinance for me that actually established the 1% to law enforcement. And it actually is for, there was a lot of back and forth with the council back then. And rather than limiting it specifically to law enforcement, it says public safety and law enforcement. And it represented a 1% of the transient lodging taxes of the first 8%. So my calculations, based on going back to when this ordinance was enacted, says that we should have approximately $1.7 million minus what we spent last year in that account for what is public safety / law enforcement. What I would also like to point out is that based on our current transient lodging taxes, that amount this year was $180,000. So it does not cover the cost of just even one deputy. And so now we're talking about adding a second deputy with no funding source to support that deputy. And so it concerns me that as a city, we're talking about spending another $185,000 a year to add an additional deputy, which I'd love to have another deputy. I'd like to see coverage 7 days a week, but we also have to be able to pay for it. And just because we have $1.7 million sitting in the account somewhere, that's not gonna last forever, since our one deputy is eating into that number, as well as adding this second deputy. It eventually will overrun the amount of money that's coming in. So I just think we need to keep that in mind. We need to think about it as we deliberate on it, because I brought up the idea of not just law enforcement, but public safety. And, you know, we've batted around this idea a couple of different times about needing to have enforcement officers in the city to be able to do code enforcement and those types of things, which I believe is part of the contract that the deputies will perform. But I would like to maybe have a committee or a group of citizens get involved and help to advise us what we think we need to do on the side of public safety and law enforcement. I mean, it's a big deal. It's not just us that need to decide that. I think we need to have a lot of input from the citizens to be able to say, you know, we don't think we need the deputies. We're not willing to pay for the deputies. You know, it's a lot. And so I've said a lot, and I just.
Kim, can you address the funding portion of it? Because we are funded.
Right,
In our budget.
we are, and if we just say that TRT is supposed to cover the public safety aspect and only say that, then he's right. Once we use up that 1.7 million, which will take several years to do, we would be tapped out if we say our only funding stream is the TRT. But we also have other funding streams, including our general fund, which has good operating contingency, good unallocated amounts. So, I wouldn't say it was reasonable to say that TRT is the only mechanism by which we fund our law enforcement. We have it in the other line items and the general fund.
Excuse me, Kim, but our budget is probably, for the general fund, is nearly 80% transient lodging taxes. The SDC funds and those types of things are allocated funds that can't be used for anything else.
I understand.
And water and sewer funds are also allocated specifically to water and sewer. So the amount of money that goes into the general fund is very limited in the sources that are available, with TLT being the largest
It is the
component.
largest, exactly. But that 1% that comes from TRT isn't the only percent that comes into our general fund.
That is correct.
We get 6%, 7% off the top, which in this case is $1.4 million. We can use that for whatever we want, which includes law enforcement. And we've got a good bucket that will be coming over from TRT. That was real helpful, by the way, thank you, Counselor. That was where I was leaning toward that 1.7 that you mentioned for public safety. But we have that extra money in there. I mean, it's still ultimately it's up to the council what they want to spend.
Any other discussion?
Will we be speaking to this again right after this vote?
No.
Okay, well then I would like to say something. Thank you, Mayor. First of all,
Pardon me, Counselor, you'll be speaking it again when you guys see the revised contract that the sheriff is going to bring forward.
well, because these things have come up, I'd like to, you are joining. First of all, I've seen Councilwoman Stella's spreadsheet. And I think it would be real helpful. Has everybody seen it? Okay. We need some time, but I think Fran is exactly right. We need some time to look at this. There is no deputy's job. If we.
Thought you had the meeting.
Oh, tomorrow.
Ron!
Where's my tape?
Okay, would you mute your,
City council meeting.
mute your,
I got it, Madam Mayor.
thank you, dear.
And I would also like to have time to investigate this issue of municipal courts, because if we're gonna get a second deputy, or if we feel that we need one, that would be one way to pay for that deputy. We have to capture any revenue in this town that we can capture, as long as it's not putting us into a negative cash flow situation. And I've seen enough evidence from the cities that are doing this that I think we could pay for a deputy that way. So I'm kind of with Fran on this, that we need to, there's no rush. Thank you.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed?
No.
No.
Okay, the motion failed. So what do we want to do then? Should we still work on working with the sheriff's department?
I think we should, look at the activities for the next few months.
Okay.
I think a few months is too long. I don't need a few months to figure out if we need a second deputy. I have a real problem.
And I would like to say that if you're gonna determine your decision based on a report, you're not getting the full picture. Because I have a lot of interactions. He does the code enforcement for me for traffic and parking and everything like that. So I don't know if that type of information is captured in your reports,
Should be.
but it wouldn't be just whatever his report, it'd be everything that he does. And all of the things that he does, including, attending events and participating and being there. And I don't know what he does when he marks down, when he yells from his car, get in the crosswalk or use the crosswalk, which I know he's done.
So maybe we just wait to see what Walport comes up with, so we have more idea of what a contract could potentially looks like. And see what sway we have over what hours and days that we can have the second deputy work. I think it would be more condition, see how valuable this is.
The sheriff was willing to provide a copy of the draft. I don't know. I mean, are you saying that you're gonna follow with what you're gonna watch what Walport's doing? Because he was willing to share the contract language with us.
Okay, any other? We'll get back to you, Sheriff.
Can I move that we do approve the $189,000 contract for the deputy for 1 year, the deputy that we have already, the single deputy?
Sure.
Because that needs to be approved and paid for, right? So I'd like to make a motion that we do that for now,
With the IJ as it stands now.
with the IGA as it stands.
I'll second that.
Counselor Beasley.
Everybody second. Okay, thank you. It's been moved to second to pay for the next annual service of the one deputy. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries. Thank you, I appreciate it. Next on the agenda is the Depoe Bay Chamber of Commerce. Has everyone been able to read Kim's little dissertation on what's going on here? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sheriff.
So basically, we need to make this decision this evening on going forward with the Chamber of Commerce. And allowing, I don't believe there will be a sound debate this year, so removing all free use of our facilities.
So I have a question.
Yes.
So,
Are you suggesting then that we would cancel the reservations for the buildings that they have?
Yes.
So does that include, I mean, we could then double book it or something. What if the chamber gets it together or has an event? But are
They
we,
are very unlikely to. I can't say more than that, but I can tell you that they are very unlikely to put anything together. Anything like Saturday.
Or any other,
Did her notes not say though that they still plan to do something on those days? It may not be a salmon day, but it was something that was being planned.
Something,
currently working with another Depoe Bay
I've heard
nonprofit?
something, other things in the meantime.
But how can we make a decision based on something we've heard in the meantime?
You can make any decision that the council wishes regarding the information you have before you. She's saying it may not be a salmon day, so it's up to the
But
council.
what is done with another Depoe Bay nonprofit? Do you know anything about that?
I do not know of another Depoe Bay nonprofit at this point, other than the Friends of Depoe Bay, which I think Mr. Trent is online. I don't know if he is the other nonprofit, but I know of no other nonprofits. Well,
So, Madam Mayor, I would just like to say that I will recuse myself from a vote on this particular item just because I'm working to create an organization.
Okay.
That would be a direct competition for this particular organization. There are a couple of issues here at hand that need to be addressed. One is the free use of the facilities, and that's, I think, by resolution that was adopted that they should get free use of the facilities. And I would just from my point of view, looking from the outside in, if I were to come to the city today and ask you to provide free services for me, the city wouldn't give me any free services. In fact, I paid for the rental of the community center when I had a meeting there specifically related to the organization that I'm trying to work through. And so for free use of the facilities, I think that a nonprofit that does that should have to go through the standard nonprofit process of providing the financials, being able to tell us who their board of directors are, all of those types of things. And so if I were voting, I would not have a problem saying that they should not be allowed to use city facilities for free. The other item on the list is the DMO and the idea of having some way of marketing Depoe Bay, which we absolutely need to do that. Depoe Bay needs to get out of being a pass-through town. And so I would be in full support of providing or full support of the city probably not doing it themselves just because our staff is extremely busy already, but doing an RFP to have an outside organization come in and help to guide the city on the DMO.
totally agree. So, yes, please.
Okay, second motion. I motion to adopt resolution 564-24, repealing resolution 456, and providing exceptions to fees for city-owned facilities.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Been moved and seconded to accept the resolution. You have this, can you through
564-24.
564-24. Is there discussion on the motion?
Can I just ask one additional question? If we, if you all approve this motion, does the current chamber get a notice that they will now have to pay for those facilities? Is that what's gonna happen?
Yes.
Or their reservation will be canceled?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
For the record, it's fire season. Do you know how bad the fire situation is this year? Like, we're gonna light up the big giant fire at the park and cook salmon in the middle of September, the hottest, driest time of the year. Crazy talk.
Okay, any other discussion on the motion?
Your Honor, I think this is actually a great idea to charge for that use of the facility. What is the charge for that, by the way?
It's now $225, but for an event, it would be $300 as a deposit. Actually, I think $300 is the event, and the deposit is $200. You have to look at the thing again, so that came up. So events are different than just like using it for their planning meetings. I gave you the dates that they had it. That would be a daily rental of $125 per resident.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I said aye. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Now,
I'm gonna recuse
do we need to visit the DMO concept with this too?
Yes, I think we should go forward with an RFP to have a DMO.
I appreciate all of the materials you gave us.
Yes.
Those were some great.
Some good ones.
Yeah.
Those were great, yeah, and this is something that I've wanted to see us do for years.
Yeah.
So I'd love to make that motion. That we
Okay.
move forward with
Okay.
RFP for a DMO, ASAP.
It's been moved and seconded to go after an RFP for a DMO. Is there any discussion on the motion?
I think it's a good idea, I think we need to do that. The Oregon Coast Visitors Association has really made a point of sustainability and tourism and sustainability and educating tourists about natural resources and reducing impacts and all sorts of things like that. And I would really like to make sure that any RFP we put out incorporates some of the language that the Oregon Coast Visitors Association is using about promoting sustainable tourism and reducing impacts on communities.
Mayor, if I could, thinking you're gonna get an organization like that, we've got to consider that just bringing tourists here doesn't do us as a city any good. We have to benefit somehow. The only way we benefit is through our transient room tax. Am I correct? Is there another benefit to the city other than that?
And our
Other than that, it's just a
well,
cost.
and our restaurants and our
Yeah,
shops and.
but and that's good for those,
Yes,
guys,
absolutely.
but in order to bear the burden of of all of this traffic, we have to pay for police, we have to do all of these things. And so it just seems to me that we have to keep in mind that this, what our goal is to put heads in beds.
Right.
And
That's what we want this organization to do.
And I hope if we do this with an organization like this, we can find out how many bedrooms there are.
Yeah.
In this town, for example.
Okay. Any other discussion?
I think we should make sure the RFP goes out with the budget. And so our budgeted total, I think, was 50 grand, if I remember, for tourism promotion. And so the RFP should probably include that amount, so that they don't think they have some bottomless pit
Right.
of money to be able to spend. This stuff gets to be very expensive. We just did our own company, website development and social media is about $5,000 for our small little company initial startup, and they want about $800 a month. So it can add up very, very quickly.
Right.
So I think a budget is really important.
We also have the capacity with our current website to include what they call microsites. So there would be some cost savings if we said we wanted to have a landing page, which is what Aqua, how do you say that? Aqua, I'm getting used to the terminology. Aqua recommends is having a landing page. In fact, all the resources I did say you need a landing page. An updated current landing page to let people know where to go find things. People still primarily look for things on their phones and web landing pages. So we have that capability to use that to maybe save some expense that way. But I think they can do a lot of damage with $50,000.
Any other
Hopefully not
discussion?
damage.
Good damage.
But I really would like to see the RFP ask very specifically what we, that when we get their response back, that we want very much of a line item of what tasks they intend to do for that.
I'll reach out to the marketing folks I've we've been talking and see if they can help me put some language like that in the RFP.
Oh, that would be great. Thank you.
They can probably help me craft something, they might already have some ideas.
And are people okay with including language about sustainability?
Perfect. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Alrighty, thank you. We had a resignation of a planning commissioner. Jim Macy cannot no longer participate at the time. Is there a motion to accept his resignation as submitted?
I'll make a motion to accept his resignation.
Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded to accept his resignation as submitted. Is there any discussion?
I have discussion. I'd like Brady to go out and to thanking him for his service.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Alrighty. The LOC has an annual legislative priorities list. And I'd like all of you to, if you have a chance to read all of this, send in to Kim your ideas of what your priorities would be. And I think we've got a deadline of September, was that, Kim?
So that's the 25 out of the 20.
Yeah, send your ideas in to her of what you would like to see. Then we have a, number 6 is a memorandum to cancel.
Can I just go back to number 5 for a
Oh,
second?
I'm sorry, yes, please.
LOC is also doing their transient lodging survey. And are you the person that they send that to?
I haven't seen that survey. Usually I'm the one who
It's
sends
due
them.
like the 2nd of, I think it's due relatively soon here.
Okay.
And I saw it on their last communique. So I just didn't know who did that and whether because I noticed the Depoe Bay had not sent theirs yet. It wasn't listed in one of the cities.
I don't think Depoe Bay has done a lot of comments and surveys for their, I've been trying to do them as I see them. So I'll take a look at this. Did you look at the survey?
They said it's sent to the administrators of the city.
Oh.
So I
will reach out to.
couldn't see what it was.
Yeah, I'll reach out to LOC to find out where it's at, because I don't remember seeing a survey on tourism, because I would have looked at that
It's
right
on
away.
transient lodging taxes.
I mean, TRT, sorry, for TRT.
So, are we, I'm sorry, this is an aside, but sort of related to these prayers. We've already set up the, finance workshop? Did we do that yet?
Yes, for August 24th.
We're having one on August 13th, we're having a work session
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
But for discussion.
of revenue
Yeah,
sources.
August 13th.
Was it workshop?
Yeah, revenue, okay, I have it, thank you. Revenue workshop, registration with pizza.
One of the things I need is what do you wanna do? Is it a free-for-all? Do you need things, you gonna come prepared or
Well,
something?
one
What do
of
you
the
wanna do?
things we had talked about was, getting the Department of, Revenue to enforce our transient room tax.
But that's right. I do wanna talk to you about that, because I would like them to take over the administration of the TRT. Let me reach out to them to find out how much of the enforcement aspect I wanna do. But if you're talking about revenue, it should be something that we can take action on. That's more of a, we don't know for sure whether or not we have the revenue out there. I mean, everybody seems to think we're losing revenue. We don't actually know that for sure.
I just wanna know,
But that I can ask.
yeah, I just wanna know what our options are,
Sure.
because that might be part of the revenue discussion.
Got
Yes.
Is this the time to discuss this, or?
No, let's do it going.
We'll do it then, okay, sorry, I have another idea.
Purchase of the land, Joyce has an idea to go forward with that. We did include it in the budget, and so,
Well, no, basically, as you know, we're looking to strategically have cash. That's our first concern for the Emergency Preparedness Committee. And as I explained in a previous meeting, there's absolutely no place that we know of to keep the cash, like in the northwest corner of the city. There is another piece of property that just became available, same flat type of piece of property on Williams and Wayne Street. It's larger than what I think we need, it's more expensive than what I think we need. And the goal is really just to purchase this land for cash or cashes in the future. I don't know what else we may be able to do with the land once we have the cash on there. We might have something like a community garden. I don't know if it's suitable for homeless tents. I just don't know what else we can use it for. But it's very suitable land, it's flat. And I think in the future, I think that whenever the city uses it for in the future, in addition to the cash that we look to put on there, I think that in the future it would be a good thing to have, because there's just not that much land, pardon me, especially flat land. So the price is $93,100. This is the price that they've given us. We have done absolutely no negotiation with this. But I think that they are motivated to sell this, to help us to sell this land. They own the property at the post office as well, they own the building and they own the parking lot. Their intention is to use the cash, or the sale of the additional land behind the tide pool, to refurbish the post office. So I see it as the money would come basically back to Depoe Bay to improve land, the building that's already there. So that's what the recommendation is from the committee, to purchase this land. And I think that they're motivated to sell. They indicate to me that they are. So I don't think that we need to pay the full 93.1. I think we can start offering like 88 and see where the negotiations take us. So that would be my recommendation.
I'm sorry, is this the one behind the tide pool?
Yes, yeah, it is. The one that we've been talking about.
Question.
Yes, please.
Why would we not use a piece of property that the city already owns? There's an empty parking lot that sits behind the Pirate Coffee that has a city building on it. It's paved. It's not in direct line of sight of passing of everybody on Highway 101.
It's in the induction zone. So we know by looking at the Duckhoney map where the water is probably going to come. The other side of Highway 101 is in the flood zone. This particular land is not, it's on the other side of 101, because it's slightly higher.
Okay.
I have talked to Kim and Kathy Brady about land that we already own. There's parking lots, for instance, that we could possibly put something on. There's height restrictions that we currently have that it wouldn't be suitable for a cache. And so we own property as well behind my house on Edgar Avenue. That's city owned, that's a possibility. But then once again, we're looking at a cache for that particular part of town. There's really nothing suitable that I have been able to find. The city owns no property up there currently.
What are we proposing then to make that cache more attractive? Because that is a direct drive-by. Everybody that drives 101 is gonna see that big storage box.
Well, a fence around it, lock, that's really all we can do at this particular time.
It's behind the tide pool, right?
Yeah, you're gonna see it, it's gonna sit right behind where the post office is, tide pool's here, there's that big empty parking lot that goes there, and it's that empty lot that's right there.
But I don't know who would know what it is.
If I might, the city planner, if you recall, has noted that we're likely going to have to do anything with caches like this and go through the continued conditional use permit program with the planning commission. They will likely require screening.
Yeah.
So that will take care of the visibility. They will likely require site obscuring, screening, and various different things.
Again, at an additional cost to the city.
Absolutely, or unless I can get a grant from the resiliency, which I'm still waiting to hear.
So is it gonna be multi-story, is what you said?
I don't think we know yet what the size this one will be. I think it should be larger than the two that we have out here. But I don't know that people will know what it is necessarily. But it's just a building, it's gonna know what. Well, there's like an empty house next to it right now. But that's my recommendation. And the committee.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have to say that this stuff makes me very uneasy. that when we come in talking about purchasing property, we don't know what the development costs of this would be, but I would imagine after we do an appraisal of the property, we buy it, we bulldoze it, we pave it, we put the fence in, whatever it takes, it's gonna be $150,000 to buy it and develop it. And then you're gonna put a $50,000 cash in.
Well, I know that my concern is if we do have an event, we're overdue for an event. I think that it's our responsibility to be able to provide for the city, citizens of the city with proper supplies.
Well, okay, all right, I think that is a good discussion to have.
Yeah.
Let me move on. I'm sure you have many good points. I wasn't quite done yet, but one of my concerns is I keep hearing about all of these pressing infrastructure needs that we have. We have a water plant sliding into the creek. We have aging sewer lines. We talked in terms of emergency and disaster preparation about the need in the priorities that were developed here to have a fire lane around the town. So I think we really just shouldn't run out and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I still have questions about the way that we're doing this. We're talking about something that from right here is maybe 500 yards to our north. Why are we spreading all of these expensive city services all around when this stuff should be centralized? So that it can be guarded and not plundered.
If you have a tsunami come in, it's going to flood the lower land. And so if we have all of our supplies in one spot, the majority of the citizens won't be able to get to the supplies. And that's why we're strategically having the caches where we want to have them, we're talking about having them. And there's absolutely nothing, no land available in that part of town.
So, were you done?
Well, I just want to say one other thing, Fran, thank you, that I have an expectation of our committees to do the kind of work that that doesn't cost a lot of money, that produces results without expenditures of hundreds of thousands of dollars. I like the Barrel idea, frankly. It doesn't look like it would cost very much. I like participation in events that gets our city ready, or so that individual citizens will take the opportunity to stock themselves.
I'm gonna ask to table this evening. I just wanted to, can I just ask a question? Yes. So, what was being proposed here, that we take the first step to talk to the property? What was the action we're proposing?
The action is just to move forward at this particular time, to talk to them and negotiate to see if we can get a better price.
And this would kind of lead me to what I want to talk to you guys about, which is having remember I mentioned in the recent email that our city attorney wants to have an executive session to discuss that other issue. I think given some of the properties like the Stolly that we're talking about, Gregerson, the Bolin, that maybe it might be a good time to have that, having designated as the person to start the discussions with negotiations and talk about what you want to do as a council on these properties. Because right now
when would that happen?
I was going to ask you to set that executive session at your convenience. Hopefully, maybe not next week, the week after.
So, would we then have to wait for an attorney to find out if the property owner is willing to be sell to the city and be flexible on the price, or what?
I think Councilor King has already noted that he is interested in selling to the city. I think price is going to be the issue. So just like everything else, and the council could either choose tonight to appoint Councilor King as the person to negotiate and have her reach out to him with this potential to see if he would be interested in the 88,000, or you can wait until you, we can have a executive session, and then you can direct the city attorney to maybe set an offer.
Why don't you let me do the negotiation, because I don't wanna spend any money on it.
But this is that location that is closest to Worldmark.
Correct.
And Worldmark has a foundation. And to me, if we said, hey, we expect you to step up, you know, this is gonna likely serve your, I mean, we'd have to look into the grant sources, but I know they do have a grant foundation for communities they're involved in. So to me, they're gonna be the ones most benefiting, and the hills of Depoe Bay and everybody else, because there's nowhere else. The hills will be safe from the tsunami, but they'll be out of water and everything else too. Anyway, so I know you want to table this, but I just wanted to express my support for looking into it. I think it's a good location.
Well, I would like to comment on that though, seriously, about the negotiation. I would not wanna see Councilor King have to carry that burden alone. I think we should have somebody else there with her on it. I don't know if, you know, what kind of background she has on negotiating for property, but do we have a realtor on staff or?
It would just be, the suggestion would be just to make that, if the council is agreeing that her recommendation of 88,000 is a good start, it would be to make that offer and see if he's even interested. If he says, heck no, I'll never go that low or whatever, then you know right away, and then you can regroup and decide what you wanna do from there.
Well,
Can I say something? Just in looking at the tsunami map, you know where a really good place to put this would be is up at the hills of Depoe Bay or something.
Right, we've been talking about that for years now, but until they get to that next stage, they do not have a place for us to
I
live.
bet we could
there's a
find
ton
one.
of land up there.
How many conversations have you had with them?
Yeah, there's,
That new water tank looks pretty dang.
yeah, they're ready to get, I mean, once they get enough people in an HOA, it would be up there.
Well, if
There's a
we're
lot of-
partnered with them though, I mean, have we had any kind of discussion about, hey, could we,
There's plenty of room.
yeah, there's tons of
There's
room.
a ton of room.
Yeah, Valerie, we've been discussing this
Somewhat of a
for
board.
years.
There's room by
They
the
have
water
a-
tank.
They have a PUD, why can't you not make
Okay,
it part of
but
the
then maybe
requirement for their?
somebody should reach out to them.
Yeah.
Somebody, maybe you can reach out to them.
That's a-
I mean, it's a PUD where we are defining how it's going to be used. Why can't a condition of the PUD be to include a space that's X amount by X amount to place a trash container?
We can when we get to a new phase that requires conditions of approval, because right now, everything they're working on is what was already
We just passed the PUD
already
for.
passed.
Well, but a new
Correct.
phase is coming up.
But there's,
Phase two,
Yeah.
pardon me, if I could ask the chair, because I don't attend, they just approved phase two, right?
Yeah,
So you've already got all the conditions of approval set for that. So we're talking years out, but yeah, certainly in the next phases, we could always set those conditions of approval. But they haven't even, I don't even think they have the plat map.
if I may, Mayor.
Yes.
They historically, that particular developer has come back for tweaks and stuff in their phase plan a few times.
Okay.
Wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility. that they do
That's Chris, right?
So when they tweak, we make our move?
I'll reach out to Chris.
Yeah, that
Okay.
seems.
I know, I mean, they have a civic building that they defined in phase two, so put a civic cache in their civic space.
I don't think they're against, at least since I've been here from day one, and this has been discussed for nearly 2 years, that I didn't get the feeling that they're against doing something. Originally, I thought it was supposed to be by the pump station, and then that fell apart. So I'm really, do I reach out to Chris? I really don't know. Okay.
Yeah, let's talk a bit. So there's a maintenance building where the new water tank is for the city to have equipment. And, an area to store equipment that we need to work when we're in that area. Maybe it could be integrated with that.
Okay, I'll reach out.
There's a lot of room.
We'll get more information. Project updates, any question on project updates?
So don't run away. I had a few updates. Just try and hurry up and tell. So let's start on the work session real quick then. So I have some information for you on the Gregerson property. I don't know if you want to.
I'm sorry, which property?
The Gregerson, the 9.79 acres
behind the harbor.
East of the
Yeah.
harbor master.
I'm really not good with the east and west, I'm really good with behind dockside, or beside dockside, or something like that. So that's why I wanna talk about doing a work session and then, or excuse me, an executive session. And then I can tell Corey if sometime during the week, because I'm supposed to be on vacation next week, although I don't think it's gonna be a full week off, I think it'll be partial. But anyway, the following weekend of the 29th, is there any availability for the council to have an executive session? Then I can go to Corey and let him know.
So it's only on that property, what about the lane?
It would be all of that. It would be property negotiations.
Okay.
As long as we stay under the ORS of property negotiations, it doesn't say you can only talk about one property, it just says you have to talk about property negotiations.
Do you wanna do
the week of the
Tuesday on the 29th?
29th?
Do you wanna do it on Tuesday the 30th?
I don't have any reason for not, but
Okay.
So it's
Okay.
August 30th. August
July
30th.
July 30th.
That's 2 weeks from today.
What
Yeah.
time?
Whatever time the council wishes, could be 5, could be 6, whatever you wish.
5 o'clock?
5 o'clock is good.
Okay. We'll do an executive session.
Okay.
And the executive session is going to do property negotiations and
As a municipal service.
municipal signs.
So, it'll be the potential litigation and the real property negotiations over.
So, if I could ask, I'm sorry, the negotiations for what property?
Discussions about purchasing, the language is about, you guys can enter into discussion with somebody that does negotiations, will help with negotiations to determine whether you wanna purchase these properties and how much you wanna offer. If you decide, I mean, maybe when you hear what this real estate broker that I have look into this property tells you, you may go, nah, we're not interested, or you may wanna do something different. That's where the negotiations comes in, but you're not negotiating with people, you're negotiating with yourselves and then letting our attorney know what you want them to do.
Mayor, I'm just, a dummy, I admit. Plodding through life, trying to figure things out. And I'm just looking for someone please, to explain to me how we can go out and purchase millions of dollars of care, how we can purchase millions in property and face all of these infrastructure costs as well. Can there just be that argument or that
We
explanation
cannot
to it?
talk about that. I need to move on.
Before you do that, I would like to just add 2 more things. I'm sorry, Madam Mayor, but one of these things I think is really important because it kind of helps when we talk about what we're doing related to our infrastructure. So I'm always looking for opportunities for either the city to apply for a grant, to get some free technical assistance, whatever I can get. Okay, so I've been dialed into a lot of sources, and one of them is through the EPA. They have what they call, and I just have it right here, what they call their EPA Water Technical Assistance Program. I went on and filled out the form, and guess what? Depoe Bay was accepted. I filled it out for the plant. Plant was flagged. Anyway, this is free technical assistance to talk about our options, to discuss where we can get funding, how we can make this work. I'm not talking about loans, I mean, although loans are on the table, always on the table, but there are other options out there. So we are actually going to get to meet with a consultant that works with the EPA that helps for free people find resources. It's a really good, important fact. I think Laura from DEQ told me about it. So we got accepted. So I just found that out yesterday. So I'm really excited about that anytime we can get some free resources to help us figure these things out, I think is a great thing.
Well, bravo, I'm for that, Mayor, but
Me too.
what are we doing? Why are we doing this?
Okay, let's move on.
So, anyway, the other thing I wanted to tell you, is, well, I wanted to one of the things that the governor shared a new platform for housing, and I don't want to bore you with the details on that.
Let's move on, Kim.
Right, but I do want to say that there is some interesting things coming up on that as far as how the city can maybe put in, like you could recommend a site that might be considered for affordable housing, and they will help connect you with people and programs and maybe even developers. So if we talk about, when we talk about the Solid program, it might be worthwhile to put that on this database to maybe get some interest on that, so.
Okay. Are there any closing public comments? Council comments? Anyone with council comments this evening?
I gotta say, I was really impressed with the observations about the building of our docks. That was
Yes, that was helpful, yeah.
What was that? The dog.
very lengthy overview of our contractor that had gone to the construction place and talked about everything stacked neatly and it's all
They're
there.
organized.
We thought you might like to see that.
I like that.
It's very nice.
Yes, Counselor.
Mayor, I know that, this is a question for Ken here. Ken, we found out that we were newly engaged in this Glen Eden Beach sewer issue again at
That we
last.
were what?
Newly engaged. We
Actually,
got-
you're not now,
No, we're not,
you're not.
no.
So whatever came of the cooperation,
The council at the last meeting, or one of the last meetings, said you don't want to participate, so it's dead. However, the council will have to engage in discussions with Glen Eden regarding the termination of the contract.
Right, the agreement.
And since it appears that it's very likely that council and the Glen Eden folks will not be able to do this on their own, the consensus folks don't give support, they don't have arbitrators or mediators, but they will give us names of those. And just so you know that they are reporting this up to the governor, regional governor's office, so,
We are on,
yes.
okay, I've got to adjourn the meeting, excuse me, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you, good night.
Good night, Gina.
Thank you, Mayor.
Is
there Wi-Fi at the community center?
There is.
Is it good?
That's recent.
Yes.
Very good. We used to not have that.
Smiley poodles, something.
Oh, yeah.
Smiley poodles, something. Freddie, would you disconnect us, please?
yep, those are my votes.
Okay, thanks. Council Fran, there's a couple things for you to sign for renewal. This is the budget resolution that approves it, and this is the check that we're paying.
So is this what we adopted?
And this is a